The chamber was silent in the way only engineered spaces could be silent, as if even echoes required authorization. Daniel Reyes stood inside a cylindrical containment field that shimmered faintly around him, a polite shade of blue, like a corporate apology rendered in light. He tested it once with his knuckles. It hummed in disapproval. Across from him, elevated but not by much, just enough to be irritating, stood Princess Elira of the Velari Imperium. She looked human, unsettlingly human. Dark eyes, composed posture, hands folded with deliberate elegance. Only her ears betrayed the difference. Long, refined arcs that swept back past her hair, twitching almost imperceptibly as if tasting the air for secrets. Daniel glanced at them, then back to her face. "I'm trying very hard not to stare," he said. "It feels diplomatically unsafe." A murmur passed through the semicircle of armored Velari officials lining the chamber. Their armor adjusted hue in synchronized irritation. Elira's expression did not change. "You are staring." "Professional curiosity," Daniel replied. "We've only just been invaded." Her ears angled slightly forward. "Invaded is an imprecise term. Your planetary defense grid was deactivated in 7 minutes. We prefer the word integrated." 7 minutes, Daniel blinked. "That's embarrassing. We've lost soccer matches longer than that." Silence again. The Velari did not understand soccer. Elira suspected that was the point. She stepped down from the slight elevation. The chamber's floor adjusted under her feet, reacting to her biometric signature. Daniel noticed that and gave a low whistle. "Adaptive nanoflooring, nice touch. We're still arguing about potholes." "You are remarkably composed," she said. "I practiced on the shuttle." "There was no shuttle." "In my head," he clarified. It helped. Her gaze sharpened. She could hear his pulse, steady. No tremor, no accelerated rhythm. Her ears caught the micro-fluctuations of blood flow, the subtle signatures of fear common to every species the Imperium had encountered. He had them, he simply wasn't using them. "You stand before the heir to a dominion spanning 400 systems," Elira said evenly. "Your world has been evaluated and deemed strategically viable. Submission will ensure your species' continued existence." Daniel nodded thoughtfully. "That sounds like the nice version." "It is. And the other version." Her ears tilted back a fraction. "Non-existence." He considered this with exaggerated seriousness. "That does seem less convenient." Elira allowed herself a breath. This was the familiar part, the ritual pivot, the moment where realization descended and resistance softened into bargaining. "Kneel," she said. The word carried amplification, subtle harmonic layering that resonated in bone and nerve. Most species felt it as instinct. Daniel looked down at his shoes. "I just polished these." "Kneel," she repeated. He met her eyes, respectfully no. A ripple of agitation moved through the chamber. Weapons along the walls adjusted orientation with soft mechanical clicks. Elira did not raise her voice. "You misunderstand. This is not symbolic. It is procedural. Submission must be acknowledged physically." "Ah," Daniel said. "See, that's where we differ. Humans are very attached to the vertical lifestyle." Her ears twitched sharply. She leaned closer, studying him as though he were a malfunctioning device. "All species kneel." "Statistically improbable," he replied. "You've met us now." The containment field flickered briefly as energy levels adjusted. He felt it, a tightening pressure around his shoulders, an invitation to comply. He exhaled slowly. "If you're going to force it, at least be honest about it. Don't dress it up like a cultural exchange." Something shifted in her gaze, not anger, calculation. "You would choose annihilation over subservience." "I'd choose not being humiliated," he corrected. "Annihilation is your word. You are one individual." "Today," he said lightly, "but you only need one of us to say no." Her ears stilled completely. That more than anything unsettled the watching officials. "You presume your defiance carries weight," she said. "I presume you expected me to beg," Daniel answered. "You practiced a speech, didn't you?" A flicker, barely there but real, he smiled faintly. "How am I doing so far?" "This is not theater." "It feels like theater." The silence stretched. Then she circled him slowly, steps measured. The containment field refracted her form into faint prisms. "You have been offered survival," she said. "Access to imperial knowledge, position at my court. As a decorative example of compliance. As proof of unity." "Synonyms," he replied. Her ears angled toward his heartbeat again, still steady, irritatingly steady. "If not submission," she asked, "what do you request?" He hesitated not from fear but thoughtfulness. A ship. Murmurs erupted. A vessel, he clarified. Functional, no tracking devices. Point me beyond your borders. You would exile yourself? Her voice held the faintest crack of disbelief. I'd rather leave standing than stay kneeling. You would abandon your species. I'd give them a story, he said. Sometimes that's more useful. The chamber seemed to compress around them. Imperial protocol did not contain a section for voluntary departure without capitulation. You expect safe passage, she said slowly, after defying me. Daniel tilted his head. If your empire is as powerful as advertised, one stubborn human shouldn't threaten it. A dangerous argument, clever. Her advisors transmitted silent signals across their visors. Eliminate, demonstrate authority, end anomaly. Instead, Elira studied him. For the first time in her life, the script felt insufficient. You are not afraid, she said quietly. Oh, I am, Daniel replied. I'm just not cooperative about it. A breath escaped her, almost a laugh, though she suppressed it before the court could register the sound. You are inconvenient, she decided. I've been called worse. She turned to the chamber. Prepare a scout-class vessel, minimal provisions, no weaponry. Shock rippled outward. Daniel blinked. You're serious. Her gaze returned to him, cool and unreadable. You wish to leave standing. I'm curious to see how long you remain that way. He inclined his head, not a bow, not submission, simply acknowledgement. Fair enough. As guards deactivated the containment field, the blue light dissolving into nothing, Daniel rolled his shoulders. For what it's worth, he added, your floor is very impressive. Elira's ears flicked despite herself. Go human. He paused at the threshold, glancing back. You know, he said, you might be surprised what happens when you stop asking people to kneel. Then he was gone, escorted toward a hangar that had never before prepared a ship for someone who refused. In the sudden quiet, Elira stood motionless. Her ears strained after the fading rhythm of his heartbeat down the corridor. It did not sound like surrender, it sounded like departure. The scout-class vessel assigned to Daniel had clearly been designed by someone who considered comfort a moral weakness. The control interface activated as he entered, lines of alien script rearranging themselves into human language with faint reluctance. Welcome, provisional occupant, the ship intoned. Provisional, Daniel muttered, that's reassuring. Your authorization status is categorized as anomalous. Story of my life. The hangar doors parted. Imperial space unfolded ahead. Orderly traffic lanes, synchronized patrol routes, satellites orbiting with disciplined precision. It looked less like a civilization and more like a perfectly balanced equation. Behind the observation glass high above, Princess Elira watched the vessel detach. Her ears tracked the fluctuations of reactor output, the rhythm of departure clearance codes, even the subtle shift in the air as technicians whispered speculation. No one spoke directly to her, they didn't need to. He will fail, said Commander Vaylor at her side. Perhaps, she replied, he is unarmed. So are ideas, she said quietly. The scout ship cleared the final perimeter ring. Imperial transponders disengaged one by one until only the hum of independent navigation remained. Daniel leaned back in the pilot's cradle. All right, he told the ship. Let's find the neighbors you don't like. Clarify, the ship responded. Minor species, fringe systems, the ones you pretend aren't strategically relevant. A pause, then coordinates appeared. These territories are economically negligible. Perfect, Daniel said. I specialize in negligible. He spent the first hours rewriting the ship's interface personality. It protested with polite offense. You are altering Imperial coding. I'm personalizing, he corrected. Big difference. You have renamed primary propulsion to Hope Engine. Motivation matters. When the vessel slipped beyond the last Imperial buoy, space shifted from regulated geometry to something messier. Signals overlapped. Beacons flickered inconsistently. Trade routes bent around gravitational scars left by old wars. Daniel smiled faintly. Home sweet chaos. Days later, he arrived in orbit of a fractured station belonging to the Talrin Collective, a species categorized in Imperial archives as technologically stagnant but socially resilient. The station hailed him with visible suspicion. Identify, crackled a voice through the comm. Human, Daniel said, formerly detained, currently unemployed. A long silence. You are broadcasting from Imperial hardware. Borrowed, he replied. Long story. Docking clamps engaged with audible reluctance. When he stepped into the station's central hub, a cluster of Talran officials waited. Their exoskeletal forms shifted in agitation. "You bring surveillance," one accused. "I bring upgrades," Daniel countered, and possibly sarcasm, still assessing supply levels. They did not laugh, he sighed. Tough crowd. He spent the following cycles examining their failing reactors. Imperial design philosophy favored centralized power cores, efficient, elegant, vulnerable. The Talran had a patchwork system of mining lasers retrofitted into generators, each barely holding together. "This is a mess," Daniel said cheerfully. "We are aware," replied a Talran engineer. "Good, awareness is step one." He rerouted thermal exhaust through abandoned cargo rails, reprogrammed mining drones to operate as automated repair units, and cannibalized half the Imperial Scouts' auxiliary systems. The ship protested loudly. "You are dismantling classified technology." "I'm networking," he said. "Hope engine integrity reduced by 12%. Hope is flexible." Within days, the station's energy output stabilized. Shields, once intermittent, held steady against micrometeor impacts. Word spread across neighboring systems that a human had arrived carrying Imperial secrets and an alarming amount of optimism. Back within the Imperium, reports filtered upward. "Unauthorized technological dissemination detected in Peripheral Zone 7, Vaylor informed the princess. Elira did not look surprised. "Casualties?" "None. Territorial loss." "Negligible." Her ears angled thoughtfully. "Define negligible." Vaylor hesitated. "Strategically insignificant. However, morale indicators among minor species have increased." "Morale," she repeated softly, as if testing the texture of the word. "He is destabilizing perceptions," Vaylor said, "not fleets." "Perceptions outlast fleets," she replied. Another report surfaced. 3 minor coalitions had begun cooperative trade agreements independent of Imperial oversight. Their communications referenced a phrase repeatedly. "Stand standing." Elira's ears flicked sharply. "He is turning posture into doctrine." Vaylor stiffened. "We can dispatch enforcement." "And prove his point?" she asked. Silence. Far from the Imperial core, Daniel stood before a projection of half-repaired ships orbiting the Talran station. "You realize," said the Talran engineer, "that the Imperium will respond." "Of course," Daniel said. "Empires hate being ignored." "Are you building an alliance?" He considered that. "I'm building options." "You refused their submission ritual," the engineer observed. "Why assist us?" Daniel leaned against a console. "Because they expect you to kneel too." The Talran shifted uneasily. "We would have." "I know." A warning alarm interrupted them. Long-range sensors flared. An Imperial patrol cruiser emerged from fold space at the edge of the system. On the bridge of the cruiser, officers scanned the upgraded station. "Energy signatures inconsistent with prior records," one reported. "Human interference confirmed," said another. Back on the station, Daniel exhaled slowly. "Well," he said, "that didn't take long. Your Hope engine is currently at 68%. His ship informed him through a remote link. "Plenty of hope," he replied. He opened a channel before weapons could lock. "Imperial cruiser," he said calmly. "Before this becomes dramatic, may I suggest a conversation?" On the flagship in the Imperial core, Princess Elira felt the faint tremor of distant power signatures transmitted through subspace relays. Her ears caught the pattern, familiar now. He was not running, he was standing. And for reasons she had not yet admitted even to herself, she found that infinitely more dangerous than if he had begged. The Imperial cruiser held position at the edge of Talran space, weapons charged but not firing. Its commander waited for authorization that did not arrive. Daniel stood in the station's command ring, watching the tactical overlay flicker with probability trees. Most of them ended badly. A few ended heroically. None ended comfortably. "You are smiling," the Talran engineer observed. "I do that when I'm terrified," Daniel replied. "It confuses people." On the bridge of her flagship, Princess Elira listened to the layered reports streaming through the neural lattice. Weapon locks established. Countermeasures primed. Peripheral coalitions aligning behind the Talran station in what could generously be called a fleet and less generously be called an enthusiastic collection of mismatched engines. Commander Vaylor stood rigid beside her. "The cruiser requests permission to neutralize the human asset." "Asset," she repeated. "He is the destabilizing variable." Her ears angled forward, catching the distant pulse of reactor cores across subspace telemetry. one human-modified mining laser, 3 Talran carriers running on redistributed power grids, 2 merchant vessels broadcasting solidarity messages far louder than their shield capacity justified. It was absurd. It was fragile. It was standing. "Open a direct channel," she said. Moments later, Daniel's face appeared in the flagship's projection field. He looked tired now, less flippant, still upright. "Princess," he said, "lovely escalation you've arranged." "You are disseminating Imperial technology," she replied. "I improved your design," he corrected. "You're welcome." Behind him, alarms pulsed softly. Behind her, officers waited for a single syllable that would begin a war no one had planned for last month. "You are forcing my hand," Vaylor murmured. "No," Elira said quietly, "he is forcing mine." Daniel tilted his head. "If this is about the Hope Engine name, I can workshop alternatives." Despite the tension, something in her expression shifted, not amusement exactly, recognition. "You could have accepted position at my court," she said. "Influence, protection." "And kneel every morning?" he asked gently. "That's not influence." A pause stretched between star systems. "You have rallied minor species," she continued. "You are creating a block beyond our control." "I gave them options," Daniel replied. "You built a system where the only choice was submission or extinction. I suggested a third column." "And what is that column called?" He thought about it. "Conversation." Vaylor stepped forward. "This is insubordination at a civilizational scale." Elira lifted a hand. Silence obeyed her. She studied Daniel not as anomaly now, but as mirror. Since his departure, she had reviewed conquest archives, species kneeling in unison, leaders reciting gratitude scripts written for them. Efficient, orderly, predictable, empty. "You said," she recalled slowly, "that sometimes a story is more useful than a sacrifice." "Humans are big on stories," Daniel admitted. "They outlast empires." Her ears caught his heartbeat again. Faster now, honest fear contained but present. "You are afraid," she said. "Of course," he answered. "I just refuse to let fear design my posture." The bridge fell utterly still. Elira turned to her officers. "Stand down the cruiser." Shock rippled through the command lattice. "Your Highness," Vaylor began. "Stand down," she repeated, amplification resonating through the ship's command core. Across Talran space, weapon locks disengaged one by one. The cruiser's cannons dimmed. Daniel blinked. "That's new." "This confrontation ends now," Elira declared. "Transmit to all peripheral systems. The Imperium will initiate a revision of submission protocols." Vaylor stared at her as if she had spoken gravitational heresy. "Revision. Effective immediately, integration will be voluntary. Alliances negotiated. No compulsory kneeling." The word hung in the air like debris from an exploded doctrine. "You cannot simply dismantle centuries of policy," Vaylor said. "I am not dismantling," she replied calmly. "I am recalibrating." Daniel exhaled, long and unsteady. "You're serious?" She met his gaze through light years of compressed signal. "You wish to leave standing. I find I prefer speaking with those who do." In the Talran station, murmurs spread. Confusion, disbelief, cautious hope. Coalition ships powered down weapons they had barely understood how to fire. "This could be a trap," the Talran engineer whispered. Daniel shrugged faintly. "Everything is, that's not a reason to stop trying." Elira addressed the wider network. Representatives of the Talran Collective and associated systems are invited to the Imperial Core under diplomatic status. No ceremonial submission required. "Do we at least get chairs?" Daniel asked, her ears flicked. "You may remain vertical if you insist." Laughter, actual laughter, broke across the Talran command ring. It was nervous, incredulous, but real. Vaylor lowered his gaze. "You risk appearing weak." Elira's voice softened, but did not waver. "Then we will redefine strength." The following cycles unfolded not in battle, but in negotiation chambers where translation matrices worked overtime and security drones hovered awkwardly, unsure what to intimidate. Daniel walked those halls without restraints this time. He noticed how often Imperial officials glanced at his posture. He did not kneel. Neither did they ask. In private audience, Elira faced him without court or amplification. "You have altered the trajectory of my empire," she said. "You chose to alter it," he corrected. She considered that. "Before you, I believed dignity was a resource we granted. And now I suspect it is not mine to distribute." He smiled, less defiant now, more tired and honest. "Took us centuries to figure that out back home." You will return to Earth, she asked. Yes, he said. They deserve to hear this from someone who didn't bow. And after? He hesitated. After, maybe we build something that doesn't require anyone to. Her ears stilled, not in disbelief this time, but in quiet acceptance. You have grown dangerous, she observed. I've grown consistent, he replied. Beyond the chamber, Coalition and Imperial engineers began drafting shared infrastructure plans. Trade corridors replaced patrol routes. Protocol manuals underwent frantic revision. The word submission faded from official lexicons, replaced by partnership, awkward at first, then practiced. When Daniel finally departed the core system, it was not in exile. An escort accompanied him, ceremonial but not possessive. On the observation platform, Elira watched his vessel prepare for fold jump. You could remain, she said over private channel. I know, he answered. But I think it matters that I leave by choice. Her ears angled toward the rhythm of his pulse one last time, still steady. Then go human, she said. He grinned. Try not to conquer anyone while I'm gone. No promises, she replied, and this time the hint of humor was unmistakable. But I will negotiate first. His ship folded into light and vanished. In the quiet that followed, Elira did not feel diminished. The Empire still stood, vast, powerful, but no longer dependent on bent knees to prove it. Somewhere in the expanding dark between systems, a story traveled faster than fleets. That one human had refused to kneel, and an empire had decided to stand differently because of it. And for the first time in her reign, Princess Elira found that the silence of her command chamber no longer sounded engineered. It sounded open,